Mark Jackson's weird breakup with Golden State. Things were rolling on the court. They made the playoffs back-to-back, and the defense under Jackson got sharp, finishing that final year ranked 4th in efficiency. But behind the scenes, total chaos. Jackson couldn't seem to connect with just about anyone in the building. Ownership flat out said he couldn't get along with 200 people. That's a lot of people to alienate. The thing no one knows, what truly went on behind the scenes. Then came the coaching staff drama. Brian Scalabrine got launched to the D-League in the middle of the season. Darren Erman, gone, after secretly recording conversations. Not the kind of work environment you brag about on LinkedIn. Jackson didn't exactly help his own case either. Management pushed him to bring in experienced assistants, but he pushed right back, saying he already had the best staff. Spoiler alert, he didn't. Offensively, it was kind of a mess. The ball wasn't moving much, too much isolation play. You could see where things were stalling, even with all that talent. Then came the reports about inappropriate remarks made by Jackson, including alleged homophobic comments. That set the tone for an even more fractured environment. After they let him go, Steve Kerr came in and boom, championship in his first year, then a dynasty. Jackson hasn't coached since. Even though he helped set the stage, his exit was about more than wins and losses. It was about trust, collaboration, and how badly things can burn when those fall apart. Although, we still truly don't know what went on behind the scenes. LeBron and Jordan's mysterious pickup game at Hoops. Back in the summer of 2001, a 16-year-old LeBron James got invited into a secret basketball sanctuary, Michael Jordan's private gym, known as Hoops, in Chicago. Jordan was getting ready for another NBA run, and the gym was stacked with pros like Antoine Walker, Penny Hardaway, Michael Finley, and Ron Artest. LeBron, still in high school, somehow ended up on the court with these guys. At first, he was nervous. Who wouldn't be? But once the game started, he claimed he lit it up. According to LeBron, nobody could guard him. He said, "I was busting ass." And apparently, it got heated. Ron Artest didn't take kindly to getting cooked by a teenager, and things got physical. LeBron ended up with a cracked rib, which is about the most Ron Artest response possible. Now here's where it gets even murkier. Some say Jordan was there, others say he wasn't on the court during LeBron's run. LeBron insists he played alongside him, but with no footage, it's all word of mouth. And that's part of what keeps this thing alive. When asked about the tapes, LeBron joked, Jordan must have burned them. Maybe he did, or maybe nobody hit record. Either way, fans ran with it. Those games have turned into basketball folklore. A teenage LeBron supposedly wrecking grown NBA players before his driver's license was laminated? That's the stuff of legend. True or not, it added another layer to the myth of LeBron. One gym, a cracked rib, no footage, and a million questions that'll probably never get answered. Kawhi Leonard's strange exit from San Antonio and relationship with their medical staff. What started as a simple injury diagnosis turned into one of the strangest breakups the league's ever seen. In the summer of 2017, Leonard was diagnosed with a quad issue that kept him out at the start of the season. He came back in December, played 9 games, then disappeared again in January. Spurs doctors cleared him to return, but he wasn't buying it. He got a second opinion and did his own rehab. That's when things got weird. Communication fell apart. His personal team reportedly kept the Spurs at arm's length, and nobody really knew what was going on. In March, the tension got so bad that the team held a players-only meeting where some guys allegedly begged Leonard to suit up again. Clearly, that didn't work. And then there's the uncle. Dennis Robertson, known around the league as a major influence in Leonard's life, took the lead on everything. The Spurs weren't thrilled about how much control he had or how he was managing Leonard's situation. The trust? Gone. Meanwhile, Kawhi said nothing publicly. No statement, no clarification, nothing. That silence opened the floodgates for rumors and speculation. People didn't know if he was hurt, angry, planning an exit, or all three. By July, it was over. Leonard and Danny Green were shipped to Toronto for DeMar and a first-round pick. 1 year later, Leonard led the Raptors to their first championship and snagged Finals MVP. For San Antonio, it was a clean break, but also a messy goodbye. And still, not all the pieces have been put together. Nobody's really told the full story. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Michael Jordan's first retirement mystery. In October of 1993, Michael Jordan shocked everyone by walking away from basketball at just 30 years old. He just finished a dominant 3-year title run and was the face of the league. But during his press conference, he said the fire to play was gone. That summer, his father had been murdered during a robbery in North Carolina. The loss was devastating, and it clearly played a role in his decision to step back. Still, questions swirled. Jordan had a well-known gambling habit that had already drawn serious attention. A man named Richard Esquinas claimed he won over $1 million from him on golf bets. Jordan also admitted to losing over $50,000 to a gambler named Slim Bueller. Then, just before a playoff game, he was seen gambling in Atlantic City. With all that, the conspiracy crowd lit up. People started saying his retirement was actually a secret suspension from the league. But NBA Commissioner David Stern shot that down completely, saying there was zero proof of wrongdoing. Multiple investigations found nothing tying his gambling to any suspension, and a documentary later supported that. Instead of basketball, Jordan turned to baseball. Chasing a dream he shared with his late father, he signed with the White Sox and played for the Birmingham Barons. His numbers weren't eye-popping, but he managed 3 home runs and 30 stolen bases. The 1994 MLB strike cut that short. Mentally, Jordan had been burned out for a while. The pressure, the constant media noise, the non-stop grind, it all added up. He'd actually considered retiring a year earlier. When he left, it wasn't one thing, it was everything, and it changed sports forever. Trailblazers' handling of Greg Oden and Brandon Roy's injury. When the Trailblazers drafted Greg Oden, first overall in 2007, expectations were sky high. But right out the gate, he needed microfracture surgery on his right knee and missed his entire rookie season. When he finally hit the court, the injuries didn't stop. In 2009, he fractured his left patella and had to have surgery again. Things just kept snowballing. There were real questions about how the team handled his rehab. Oden was fitted with a thick orthotic, but it led to foot problems. A kinesiologist even suggested the stress from his right knee issues caused damage to his left. It felt like everything was connected, and not in a good way. Then there was Brandon Roy, the heart of the team and a rising star. He racked up all-star selections and looked like the franchise's future, but his knees were already breaking down. In 2010, he tore his meniscus and had surgery, then came back just 8 days later for the playoffs. It was a heroic move, but probably not a smart one. By the next season, he needed surgeries on both knees. With no cartilage left, he retired at 27. Portland's medical staff caught a lot of heat. The team had a stretch of non-contact injuries and long recoveries, and people started pointing fingers. Oden and Roy weren't just unlucky, they were part of a pattern. 2 careers derailed, 2 promising paths cut short, and a franchise left wondering how it all went so wrong so fast. The weird behind the screens of the 2004 Lakers. The 2003 to 2004 Lakers were supposed to be unstoppable. Kobe Bryant, Shaq, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton, 4 future Hall of Famers, all chasing a ring. But what should have been a championship parade turned into a full-on implosion. Shaq and Kobe's feud hit a boiling point. They clashed over leadership and took shots at each other in the media. Shaq felt like the franchise was shifting toward Kobe, and when Phil Jackson announced he wouldn't coach if Kobe stayed, it was clear this team was cracking. Jackson's own exit came with its own drama. He butted heads with ownership and called Kobe uncoachable in his book. On the court, things weren't much better. Karl Malone missed over half the season with a knee injury and re-aggravated it during the finals. He couldn't even suit up for Game 5. Gary Payton never looked comfortable in the triangle offense. It was not the system for a player like him, and it showed. Then came the finals. Everyone expected Los Angeles to roll past Detroit, but the Pistons had other plans. Their defense suffocated the Lakers, holding them under 90 points in 3 games. The series ended in 5, and it wasn't even close. After that loss, it was over. Jackson walked away. Shaq got traded to Miami. Payton was dealt to Boston. Malone retired. The team that was supposed to dominate barely made it out of the season alive. By the next year, they missed the playoffs entirely. It was one of the fastest collapses for a super team ever, and it still stings for Lakers fans who thought they had a dynasty in the making. The disappearance of Bison Dele. Once known as Brian Williams, Bison Dele walked away from the NBA in 1999 at the height of his career and left a $36 million contract behind. He changed his name to honor his heritage and set off to chase adventure. In 2002, he sailed into the South Pacific with his girlfriend, Serena Carlin, his brother Miles DeBoer, and a hired captain named Bertrand Saldo. None of them ever came back. On July 8th, communication stopped. By July 20th, DeBoer showed up alone in Tahiti. The boat had been repainted and renamed. Dele, Carlin, and Saldo were missing. Authorities quickly got suspicious. DeBoer tried to buy over $150,000 worth of gold using Dele's identity. He forged signatures, used his passport, and raised every possible red flag. Investigators found that DeBoer had purchased weights, which they believe were used to dispose of the bodies at sea. The catamaran had signs of patched bullet holes, and everything pointed to foul play. DeBoer fled to Mexico, was later found unconscious from an insulin overdose, and died in a California hospital. weeks later. Before slipping into a coma, DeBoer told a bizarre story. He said Carlin died accidentally during a fight. Saldo was killed by Dele, and he killed Dele in self-defense. The FBI wasn't buying it. The physical evidence didn't support that version, and with no bodies and no trial, the truth got buried with him. To this day, Dele's disappearance remains one of the NBA's darkest mysteries. A rising player turned global traveler, gone forever. No answers, no closure, just a haunting story drifting somewhere in the open sea. Andrew Bynum's sudden fall from NBA stardom. When the Lakers drafted Andrew Bynum in 2005, he was just 17 and already making league history as the youngest player ever. By the 2011 to 2012 season, he'd made the All-Star team, landed on the All-NBA second team, and was putting up nearly 19 points and 12 rebounds a night. It looked like Los Angeles had their center of the future, but the knees had other plans. In 2008, Bynum dislocated his kneecap and missed the rest of the season. Then in 2009, he tore his MCL. The injuries kept piling up. By the time he joined the Sixers, his knees were barely holding up. He aggravated them while bowling. Yes, bowling, and missed the entire season. Surgeries on both knees followed, and his mobility never fully returned. Then came the off-court issues. In Cleveland, Bynum was suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. Reports from practices were wild. He was taking reckless shots and generally not caring. It wasn't just the knees breaking down. It was his whole approach. The Cavaliers shipped him to Chicago, and the Bulls cut him instantly. Indiana gave him one last shot in 2014. He played 2 games. Then the knees flared up again, and he was released. Years later, he tried to mount a comeback in 2018, but it fizzled before it began. No one really understands officially where it went wrong. The Seattle Supersonics' instant move to Oklahoma City. What should have been a long legacy in Seattle turned into one of the NBA's most infamous relocations. In 2001, Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz bought the Supersonics and pitched it as a public treasure. But the team started bleeding money. Schultz couldn't get the $220 million he wanted from the state to fix up Key Arena, so he sold the team in 2006 to Clay Bennett's group out of Oklahoma City. That deal came with a so-called good faith promise to try and keep the team in Seattle. Spoiler, it didn't stick. Bennett floated a $500 million publicly funded arena in Renton. The state said no. His follow-up renovation ideas also went nowhere. In 2007, Bennett straight up announced plans to move the team to Oklahoma City. Seattle fought back legally, trying to enforce the lease that ran through 2010. They ended up settling for $45 million, with another $30 million added if the city didn't get a new team in 5 years. They didn't. Bennett got his team. Then came the emails. During legal battles, messages from Bennett's camp surfaced, suggesting they always planned to move the team. Co-owner Aubrey McClendon even admitted, "We didn't buy the team to keep it in Seattle." That comment earned him a nice $250,000 fine. Schultz, for his part, later said selling the team was one of his biggest regrets. The Supersonics name, colors, and history stayed in Seattle, but the franchise became the Thunder. The fallout still stings. Fans never got closure, and talks about a new team haven't stopped since. It's a lesson in how quickly loyalty can lose to leverage. Derrick Rose's sudden disappearance from the Knicks. On January 9th, 2017, Derrick Rose vanished. The Knicks were getting ready to play the Pelicans, and their starting point guard just didn't show up. No heads up, no text, nothing. The team couldn't reach him, and fans had no clue what was going on. People were genuinely worried. The next day, Rose returned and said he flew to Chicago to deal with a family issue. According to him, it was something deeply personal. He explained it had nothing to do with the team or basketball. Apparently that night was the first time he'd ever felt overwhelmed enough to walk away, even for just a day. 2 years later, in his memoir, he pulled back the curtain even more. He wrote that he wasn't just dealing with a family matter, he was thinking about quitting basketball altogether. The joy was gone, and it all started to feel like a job. He said, "I didn't know if I wanted to hoop in it." It was his family who convinced him to go back. The Knicks fined him for skipping the game without notice, but they didn't suspend him. Still, the moment revealed a lot about where the team was. The Knicks were already a mess that year, finishing with a 31-51 record, and this situation only added to the dysfunction swirling around the organization. Rose's disappearance became one of the most bizarre NBA moments in recent memory. But behind the headlines was a player grappling with mental strain, burnout, and trying to find some clarity in a sport that had stopped feeling like home. It wasn't just a no-show, it was a breaking point. Kyrie's Flat Earth controversy. In February of 2017, Kyrie casually told the Road Trippin' podcast that the Earth is flat. Not once, but repeatedly. He said, The earth is flat. The earth is flat. It's right in front of our faces. They lie to us. That wasn't a joke. He meant it. The reaction was instant chaos. Kyrie doubled down on the statement for a while, showing no signs of backing off, but eventually he admitted he'd gotten swept up in YouTube conspiracy content. He called it a rabbit hole, and said at the time, he was deep into conspiracies and didn't really think about the influence his words might have. Turns out a lot of people listened, especially students. Teachers started reaching out, frustrated that a famous athlete had casually undermined science class. Kyrie realized the damage, and in October of 2018, during the Forbes Under 30 Summit, he publicly apologized. He said, "I'm sorry. I apologize. I apologize." It was clear he understood just how far his words had traveled. To this day, he's never flat out said he believes the earth is round, but he's admitted that the whole situation was fueled by misinformation and that he underestimated the power of his platform. This wasn't just a weird soundbite. It became a case study in how fast conspiracy theories spread when someone with influence pushes them. Kyrie's comments weren't just goofy, they were impactful, and his walkback became just as important. For a player known for handles, this was a rare moment where his misstep bounced around way beyond the court. One theory, one mic, and a whole lot of damage control. Thon Maker's age controversy. When Thon Maker entered the 2016 NBA draft, teams weren't just scouting his game. They were trying to figure out how old he really was. Officially, he was born on February 25th, 1997, but rumors started flying that he might have been much older. Maker was born in what's now South Sudan, and his family fled the war, eventually landing in Perth, Australia. He started playing basketball there, then bounced around North America for high school, making stops in Virginia and Ontario. That's where the confusion kicked in. Some reports claimed he'd graduated from an Australian high school back in 2010. If true, that would mean he wasn't 19 during the draft. Some scouts thought he might have been 21, maybe even 23. Despite the whispers, the Milwaukee Bucks took him 10th overall. They said they'd looked into it and felt confident about the paperwork. His family and agent stood firm on the listed birth date being correct. Still, the chatter didn't die. This wasn't just about age, it was about trust, scouting accuracy, and how teams evaluate international players with complex backgrounds. In an age where data rules everything, here was a case where even something basic, like a birthday, became a full-on mystery. Maker's case raised real questions for the league. If teams can't verify something as simple as when a player was born, how can they make long-term bets on international talent? The situation didn't break the draft system, but it cracked the surface. Whether his age was ever misrepresented or just misunderstood, Thon Maker became the face of a very modern sports dilemma. What if the numbers don't tell the whole story? Vince Carter's sudden breakup with the Toronto Raptors. In December 2004, the Raptors traded away the face of their franchise, and it was anything but clean. Once known as Air Canada, Vince Carter had put basketball on the map in Toronto. But behind the highlight reels, things were falling apart. That summer, the Raptors cleaned house, firing general manager Glenn Grunwald and coach Kevin O'Neal. Carter pushed for Julius Erving as the next GM, but the team went with Rob Babcock instead. That decision, along with other broken promises, left Carter feeling betrayed. He didn't believe the organization had a real path to winning, and it showed. On the court, his effort dropped. Fans noticed. Media noticed. Carter even admitted later that he'd stopped giving full effort during his final games in Toronto. That confession didn't exactly help his case. The tension between Carter and the team hit a breaking point. On December 17th, the Raptors traded him to the New Jersey Nets. In return, they got Alonzo Mourning, who never suited up, Aaron Williams, Eric Williams, and 2 draft picks that didn't amount to much. Fans were furious. Carter jerseys were torched. Boos rained down every time he touched the ball in Toronto. The trade is still viewed as one of the worst in Raptors history. Over time, though, things softened. In 2014, a tribute video brought fans to their feet. Carter got a standing ovation. Years of bitterness started to fade. Still, no one fully knows why it faded. But for a long time, Vince Carter's departure wasn't just a trade, it was a wound. The city felt abandoned. The franchise got fleeced. And the love story that built Canadian basketball came to a messy, unforgettable end. Ben Simmons' instant steep decline. Once hailed as the next big thing, Ben Simmons' NBA career has taken a sharp and complicated turn. He entered the league with hype, talent, and expectations, but a mix of injuries, mental health battles, and on-court struggles sent things downhill fast. From the start, injuries were a problem. Simmons missed his entire rookie season with a foot injury. That was just the beginning. Later, with the Brooklyn Nets, he dealt with a herniated disc that required surgery. The setbacks kept him sidelined for long stretches, and every return felt like a question mark. While dealing with the physical issues, Simmons also opened up about his mental health. He said he was in a bad place during his time with the Sixers and didn't feel supported by the organization. The pressure piled up and it showed in his performance. His numbers took a nosedive. In the 20-22-23 season, playing for Brooklyn, he posted career lows across the board. Points, rebounds, assists, it all dipped. He looked hesitant on offense, passed up open shots, and became a shadow of his former self. This fall from all-star to uncertain contributor has been hard to watch. Simmons' story isn't just about basketball. It's about how physical and mental challenges can change everything. The truth behind Ray Allen and Rajon Rondo's feud. They won a title together, they shared a locker room, but somehow Ray Allen and Rajon Rondo ended up in one of the NBA's weirdest beefs. And to this day, no one really knows exactly why it got so bad. Some say it started when Allen allegedly tried to get Rondo traded for Chris Paul. That rumor reached Rondo and things started to unravel. Others believe it was deeper, tied to both players nearly being sent to Phoenix in a deal for Amari Stoudemire. Whatever the spark was, it burned everything around it. Trust vanished and friction became the new norm. The Celtics even tried a boxing match to patch it up. Real gloves, real punches. Rondo and Allen squared off at practice. They agreed to settle it like that, instead of trading more side comments. But even after that, the tension never left the room. Then Allen left in 2012 to join Miami. He turned down more money in Boston to play with LeBron James and D. Wade. The rest of the Celtics were furious. Garnett iced him out. Pierce backed Garnett. Rondo wouldn't even say Allen's name, just called him number 20. They didn't invite him to the 10-year title reunion. Fans took sides. Allen defended himself, but nobody seemed ready to forgive or forget. Then something changed. Rondo eventually said Allen was invited. Allen showed up to Garnett's jersey ceremony in 2022. They hugged, smiled, peace, or maybe just a moment. The real reasons behind the feud, what was said, what was felt, what really broke the bond, remain murky. The truth might be locked behind loyalty, pride, and silence. And maybe that's why the mystery still lingers. The 1985 NBA Draft Lottery. The league wanted fairness. What it got was a lifetime supply of conspiracy theories. In June of 1985, the NBA introduced its first ever draft lottery to end accusations that teams were tanking for better picks. 7 non-playoff teams had an equal shot at landing Georgetown superstar Patrick Ewing. The New York Knicks won it. And that's where the mystery begins. The drawing took place at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Commissioner David Stern reached into a spinning drum of envelopes to decide the order. The Knicks envelope came out first. Just like that, Ewing was headed to the biggest market in the league. Cue the accusations. The most famous theory? The frozen envelope. Some believe the Knicks card was chilled beforehand so Stern could identify it by touch. Others say it was intentionally bent or creased. Either way, the theory suggests the league wanted Ewing in New York. Badly. The Knicks were a struggling franchise, and Ewing was the kind of star who could bring them back to life. Suspicious? Fans certainly thought so. The NBA has always denied any funny business, and there's never been hard proof, but the story refuses to die. Over the years, the league has revamped the lottery system, swapping out envelopes for ping pong balls and adding independent oversight. It didn't kill the speculation. It just made future lotteries harder to question. Ewing had a Hall of Fame career and became a Knicks legend. But the moment he was drafted still feels hazy. The footage exists, the format is clear. And yet, the truth about that envelope still spinning in the drum, stuck between what happened and what everyone thinks happened. Markelle Fultz's shoulder. When the Sixers picked Markelle Fultz first overall in 2017, he was supposed to be the final piece of their rebuilding puzzle. Instead, he became a riddle no one could solve. His shot vanished, his form collapsed, and for months, nobody could explain why. It started with shoulder discomfort. The Sixers called it a scapular imbalance, gave him a cortisone shot, and told him to rest. But when he came back, everything looked off. Fultz later admitted he played through pain and didn't fully tell the medical staff how bad it was. The result? His shooting became unrecognizable. Layups looked like lab work. Free throws turned into science experiments. Then, over a year later, a new diagnosis surfaced: thoracic outlet syndrome. It's rare. It messes with nerves between the neck and shoulder. It causes pain, numbness, weakness. Everything that was happening to him suddenly made sense. But why did it take so long to figure out? How did the top pick in the draft end up in medical limbo? After the diagnosis, Fultz got traded to Orlando. Away from the Philadelphia spotlight, he worked quietly, and slowly, he started to look like himself again. In the 2019 to 2020 season, he became a steady contributor for the Magic. He was back on the court, playing real minutes, hitting shots, almost like none of it ever happened. But the questions remain. Was it mismanagement? Miscommunication? Just plain bad luck? The timeline still doesn't add up. Fultz's shoulder injury wasn't just physical, it was a puzzle that took too long to piece together, and the full story behind how it unraveled might still be missing a few pieces. The disappearance of Michael Beasley. Michael Beasley had all the talent. Drafted second overall in 2008, he came into the league with sky-high expectations and a polished scoring game. But somewhere between promise and production, his NBA career slipped away, and no one has really figured out why it never clicked. Off the court, red flags piled up. Beasley had multiple marijuana-related arrests and even checked into a substance abuse treatment facility. Teams started to question his professionalism. Could they count on him? Would he stay focused? The uncertainty began to follow him everywhere he went. On the court, the results were mixed. He had games where he looked unstoppable, but those flashes rarely turned into consistent impact. He bounced from team to team, Miami, Minnesota, Phoenix, back to Miami, the Lakers, the Knicks, and more, never quite sticking long enough to carve out a reliable role. Then came the missed chances. In 2020, the Brooklyn Nets gave him a shot as a substitute player, but before he could suit up, he tested positive for COVID, voiding the deal. A 5-game suspension for violating the league's drug policy followed, closing more doors. Today, Beasley's still playing, just not in the NBA. He's appeared in international leagues and joined one-on-one events like the Next Chapter. He's still chasing buckets, just on a different stage. So what really happened? Was it the off-court distractions? The lack of consistency? Just bad timing? Beasley's exit from the league didn't come with a scandal or a big farewell. It just happened, quietly, gradually. And somehow, despite all that talent, the league moved on without him. The mystery is how a player with so much could end up with so little NBA closure. The feuds of George Karl. For a coach with over 1,000 wins, George Karl somehow built a resume just as famous for his beefs as for his victories. From Denver to Sacramento, his track record with star players left more burn marks than banners. But the strange part, no one can quite figure out why it got so personal, so fast, with so many. Take Kenyon Martin. In the 2006 playoffs, Karl benched him. Martin snapped back and then refused to play the second half. Their relationship never really recovered. Years later, Karl wrote in his memoir that Martin's behavior stemmed from growing up without a father. Martin fired back, calling Karl selfish and awful. Why go there? What made that feud spill so far beyond basketball? Carmelo Anthony got the same treatment. Karl compared him to a role player, accused him of spotlight addiction, and again, blamed his upbringing. Anthony confronted Karl directly, said the apology felt fake, even after Karl publicly said he wanted peace. Melo didn't seem interested. Why the need to dig so deep? And then there's DeMarcus Cousins. Their time in Sacramento was a fireball of tension. Karl tried to trade him. Cousins cursed him out. Karl tweeted a snake emoji after leaving. It wasn't subtle, but it also wasn't new. The book Furious George stirred the pot even more. A mix of unfiltered shots and regretful commentary, it left many wondering if Karl just couldn't help himself. So here's the mystery. Why did it always break down? Was it Karl's honesty? Was it ego? Was it something else entirely? These weren't one-time spats, they were patterns. And no matter how many times Karl tried to explain it, the real reason behind the fallout never seemed to come clean. The sudden exit of Magic Johnson. On April 9th, 2019, Magic Johnson walked into a press conference and quit his job without telling his boss. As president of basketball operations for the Lakers, he had power, visibility, and influence. But apparently, he didn't have freedom, and that's what pushed him out. Magic said he missed being Magic. As an executive, the NBA's tampering rules muzzled him. He couldn't casually talk about players, couldn't mentor guys the way he used to. I had more fun when I was the big brother, he said. The role he'd signed up for didn't let him be himself. Things weren't smooth inside the building either. The Lakers missed the playoffs. Magic barely communicated with head coach Luke Walton in the weeks leading up to his resignation. The disconnect grew, and nobody seemed on the same page. The job started to look more like a burden than an opportunity. Then came the moment. Before the team's final game, Magic held a surprise press conference. No warning, no coordination. Not even Jeannie Buss, the team's owner, knew what was coming. He said he couldn't face her to say it directly, so he just told the media instead. It was classic Magic, charming, honest, spontaneous, but also completely unpredictable. Why walk away like that? Why not have a conversation first? The reasons made sense, but the method, still baffling. Magic's resignation wasn't a slow fade. It was a headline, a flashbulb, and a microphone. It was personal freedom over professional power. But the way it happened left the organization and fans stunned. The mystery isn't why he quit. It's why he chose that moment, that way, to say goodbye. the phantom foul of the 1988 NBA Finals. With 14 seconds left in Game 6, the Detroit Pistons were up 1 over the Lakers. Kareem's rose for a skyhook. Bill Laimbeer jumped straight up. And then, whistle, foul. Just like that. Kareem went to the line, hit both free throws, and the Lakers took a 1-point lead. Detroit couldn't answer, and Game 7 belonged to Los Angeles. So did the championship. But did Laimbeer actually foul him? Replays showed minimal contact, if any at all. Laimbeer held his ground, hands up, textbook verticality. Yet referee Hugh Evans blew the whistle, and a championship-altering call was made. Fans called it bogus. Players from both sides questioned it. It was instantly dubbed the Phantom Foul. Years later, Pat Riley, the Lakers head coach at the time, didn't shy away from the controversy. In 2014, he called it the Phantom Skyhook Foul, practically admitting the call was soft. And still, no real explanation has emerged to this day. What if it hadn't been called? The Pistons could have ended the series right there. No Game 7, no title for the Lakers. The moment shifted legacies. The Lakers got another banner. The Pistons had to wait one more year to start their own back-to-back run. It's one of those NBA moments frozen in time, not because of a made shot or a clutch steal, but because of a call, or maybe a non-call. Depending on who you ask, it was either justice, drama, or theft. What's certain is that Laimbeer's foul, or lack of it, still echoes through basketball debates, and the truth behind that whistle might never be fully known. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.